Well, hello, and thanks for watching another episode of News of the Pews, where you can count on unapologetic 2A advocacy. Gun rights are human rights. In recent videos, I've told you about some of the surprisingly based stuff the ATF has been up to, but if you thought F-Troop was cool, may I remind you how they lied and fabricated evidence to railroad a US Navy sailor? Patrick Adamiak is still in prison over completely inert, deactivated weapons that had parts cut off and holes drilled through them. But there's hope in sight because he has appealed his case to the Supreme Court, and now we wait to see if he's granted certiorari. We could find out as soon as Monday, or it might take longer. If the Supremes do take this up, it will be interesting to watch how the DOJ defends this case. With the new, kinder, gentler DOJ, it is plausible they simply file a brief that basically says they agree with the petitioner's claims. They're not gonna do that. That will never happen! But it's a non-zero possibility. No matter who is in charge, I don't see them admitting institutional fault or torpedoing the NFA. Still, they have to defend these charges in the aftermath of Bruin. Remember, the excuse for allowing the feds to regulate rocket launchers and machine guns in the first place is they are dangerous and unusual, but tubes with holes drilled through them are most certainly not dangerous, and they're not even really all that unusual. But hey, it would be impossible for me to produce quality 2A propaganda without you. That's right, I don't have any sponsors, so I literally could not make this content without your support. So if you are in a comfortable place in life, please consider supporting this channel by purchasing one of these radical t-shirts for just 15 bucks. Or maybe one of these rad stickers, mugs, or magnets is more your speed. But whether you buy merch or donate directly at the links down in the doobly-doo, your support is what keeps this thing going, and I am incredibly grateful for your generous support. But if you're not in a comfortable place, please don't feel pressured. You don't owe anyone else a thing. Just enjoy this 2A propaganda at the price of free $99 and continue to pray for us. My dear brothers and sisters, I hate it when I have to bring you bad news, but by now there's a good chance you have already heard about how those low-down dirty feds nabbed Doug. But the case is super fishy. Doug and Ashley, formerly Carnicon.
Hi, I'm Doug and Ashley. Thanks for watching Carnicon. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite weapons out there. I'm talking about a weapon with a cold wet nose and soft fuzzy ears. That's right, I'm talking about the bullpup.
Awesome! Up next we have the AUG, made famous by movies such as Die Hard. Awesome gun. This thing, what makes it so cool is the interchangeable barrels. You can literally switch out a barrel with just a flick of a button, and that's it.
Was charged with 1 count of engaging in the business of manufacturing explosive materials without a license, 1 count of unlawful possession of an unregistered destructive device, and 1 count of distributing information relating to manufacturing explosives. As you gentlefolk know, I'm not a lawyer because my parents were married, but it all sounds like
one big pile of shit.
Here's why. It's not illegal to make explosives without a license. I know. Blew my mind too when I first heard about it. But that's why tannerite is legal. When you blow up tannerite on the range, you are manufacturing explosives without a license, which is perfectly fine. The transport, storage, and sale of explosives are all heavily restricted, but just as it's perfectly legal to make your own guns, it's also legal to make your own explosives. So ATF is not alleging that Doug just made explosives. They're alleging he was somehow engaged in the business. Their press release doesn't say a damn thing about how he was engaged in any business, so maybe he sold 100 pounds of PETN to some shady character, but I'd bet you a beer they will try to allege that simply making explosives on a monetized channel is somehow engaged in the business. Likewise, distributing information relating to manufacturing explosives is not itself illegal. To violate that statute, one has to do it with the intent of helping someone commit a federal crime of violence. Now, the feds do allege the New Orleans terrorist douche from last year made devices by following Dugan's videos. That obviously doesn't prove a damn thing about intent, though. And that's exactly where the line ought to be on this sort of thing. I am every bit as much of a free speech extremist as I am a gun rights extremist. Just as you should be allowed to have whatever guns you like, but you can't hurt people with them, well, you should be allowed to say whatever you want, so long as you don't use your speech to hurt people. Laws punishing harmful and untruthful speech, such as libel or slander, are perfectly just, as are laws punishing incitement to violence and terroristic threats. You should be allowed to teach people how bombs work, but not with the hope they go out and hurt someone. By the same token, you should not be allowed to teach someone how to bake a pie if your intent is to get them to throw it at somebody or to poison it. The one thing they may actually have on him is the destructive device charge. It's possible he had an actual device.
It's possible, pig.
But I think it's even more likely they're gonna go for constructive possession. If he happened to have one of those complaint department grenade bodies or an empty propane cylinder or a bag of washers, they could claim he had the things he needed to build a bomb, even if he didn't actually have any stored explosives, let alone a functioning device. In short, I think these charges are probably bullshit and nothing more than a last-ditch attempt by one of the true believers to lash out at those awful gun people. I'm certainly no expert, and my opinion is worth every cent you paid for it, so we'll just have to see how this case shakes out in the end. Chat, you will not believe this. The Supreme Court got duped. While the NYSERPA versus Bruin decision was groundbreaking, it also allowed some infringements to remain in place. For example, while I'm glad they forced all the states to adopt shell-issue regimes, the court tolerated the requirement for carry permits in the first place, and they also allowed sensitive place restrictions, which are now getting hammered out in the courts as states try to apply that label to all places public and private. One such case was Adamiac versus James, which allowed New York to keep most of their sensitive places based on the citation of a founding-era North Carolina law which was claimed to ban carrying of arms at fairs and markets. Only problem? The state didn't actually cite, the law. They cited a 1792 book about the laws of the time, not the actual laws.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
And it turned out the actual laws only prohibited going armed to the terror of the public or offensively. That is to say, it was only unlawful to be armed if you were doing it for the express purpose of frightening people. So by relying on that fake citation, the Second Circuit ruled wrong, and 2 other circuit courts have followed suit since then. With any luck, Coons versus Attorney General of New Jersey will create a circuit court split, and we can take another swing at sensitive places. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are down below as always. Well, folks, round's complete on 2, but before I go, your moment of completion. I love you.